Welcome, everybody, to the Chainsaw Man podcast discussion. Yeah, we really enjoyed this series. We had a lot of good discussions after each episode, but I feel like it's also warranted to do one now at the end, now that we've seen the whole thing, and kind of talk about some of the bigger aspects of the season as a whole.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I have I think a good question to start it off that are kind of similar to the ones that a lot of people ask different variations of this questions. But this one is by Songhing. Sorry if I said that wrong. Well, only one question. Considering it's only the first season, does the anime reach your expectations, or do you feel like it wasn't as good as people hyped it? Personally, I'm a manga reader, and Chainsaw Man is my favorite manga, and I know what happens next. I can't imagine if the first season itself is enough for anime onlys to fully enjoy Chainsaw Man. Thanks for your reactions. Can't wait for the next ones.
I've been trying to prepare for this question because that's the whole conversation. Is That's what everybody's talking about. Then I wasn't sure if you're going to start it off.
I thought we might, like, that's probably what everyone's coming here.
I mean, the answer is no. Like, it's obviously no, because nothing can live up to the hype that there was. And this is what I just talked about on our holiday live stream, was like nothing. Like, okay, it's usually like it's such expectations and quality, and the ratio therein is such a difficult conversation because it requires a lot. But basically, it like you have to either meet the expectations, or the expectations need to be exceeded by the quality needs to exceed your expectations in order for it to like really grab you, or at least this is the idea that I think most people kind of agree with. And there's a lot of things that have a high level of quality, but also a really high level of expectation. Like I talked about it last time I talked about this was Berserk, how like Berserk is an insanely popular, insanely high quality series, and but it is like overhyped, I would say, like by a lot of people, especially because it's a lot of people's first manga, it's a lot of people's first like seinen series. It feels very impactful to a lot of people, but it's incredibly overhyped. But because of the quality, it like reaches that. Mm-hmm. And this has been more hyped than like anything because it's so fresh. I think that people really set the expectations high. Not even Attack on Titan like has the level of sort of expectations put upon it by everyone else. Yeah. Like everyone, like, because, and maybe it's because Attack on Titan's been going on for so long, but I think, like the person said, because it's the first season, I think that impacted a lot of people's expectations. And one more thing I want to say is we aren't these kind of people, but it's a big part of the hype culture that I think a lot of people don't like, and where I think it goes wrong is people in our position or bigger, most people who are bigger have a bigger audience. It's in our best interest to hype it up as much as possible, because the more groundswell there is, the more hype that can be artificially created, regardless of whether it's good or not. It's in our best interest to hype it up. We don't really do that for anything. Also,
we're just not very hype people in general. So
we can be,
but
it's in our best interest to do it. So we whether it's us or a TikToker or an Instagram page or whatever, or fucking like
even
Discord
just
community
fans
managers
of the show who want more people to like be engaged with the thing that they're doing, and for then it does better because so many people are watching it, so you're guaranteed to get the second season because it raked in all this money.
That's where the hype gets disproportionate, because it's not because people think it's good, it's because they want something from it. So this is where the artificial hype comes in, and where I think Chainsaw Man was done a little bit dirty for at least for this first season, because I don't know how good it gets in the future, but everybody seems to think it's good. But the problem is just the hype machine is just stupid, because it's so forced and put upon by influencers, by people with something to promote, people with meme pages where they get a following that way. Like it from the lower level to like the slightly higher level of us to like people not that I'm calling out people like Giguk, but people of that level, like just using him as example. I don't know if he's doing it on purpose, but he's really hyped. He's been hyping the shit out of Chainsaw Man, and he might just genuinely love it. A lot of people might genuinely love it, but and again, I don't know why I'm not focusing on him because I'm like claiming that he's doing this, but it's like if you like something or if you think it's good, really drive home like this is the best thing ever. This is so awesome. It's like it's the oldest trick in the book, because the more you hype it up, the more other people get hyped about it, the more they bring it up to their friends, and the more views you get. So it's like no, it's not living up to the hype. But is it bad? No, it's really good. It's really good, but no, it's not as good as the hype portrayed it.
Yeah. And I think this one specifically has been very overhyped, but at the same time has lived up to the hype better than other things that were also overhyped.
Like what?
Every season,
like Tokyo Revengers?
Yeah, Tokyo Revengers is I think a solid example of something that was super hyped. The animation wasn't there, the story wasn't there, the fan base definitely wasn't there. Everything about that was just a disappointment after disappointment. I feel like Chainsaw Man, the hype was really there and it concerned me. And I didn't feel like I got the things that the hype was promising, but it was actually for the better, because I ended up liking like things that weren't hyped up, like all the subtle complexities of the story, and things that I wasn't necessarily expecting out of guy grows chainsaws out of his head and arms and slices everyone up or something, you know. Which kind of leads me into this next thing from Jetpack Sunrise that says, how well do you think the series juggles its different tones? To me, at least, it feels like Chainsaw Man wants to be cool and crazy and poetic and loud and quiet all at once, which is a hard thing to pull off. Do you think the series succeeds in each of its aspects, or do you think that there are some you preferred more than others? And then there's some more stuff to that, but I feel like this is kind of where I feel like the hype didn't quite line up. Like, I felt like it was very hyped as a very action-y type show, but I felt that I was never really invested in any of the fights. It was kind of cool to see them, you know, jumping around and fighting these different devils, but that wasn't really what was interesting about the story to me at all.
Yeah.
And I found like Denji's character and the relationships between different characters and how everyone's kind of like morally gray or has some like weird shit going on with them. I feel like that was way more interesting to me than action fighting and stuff.
Big time, yeah.
For me anyway, and for us. And I know some people did enjoy like the fights from this show, and there were some that were good. And I especially really loved the episode where Power and Denji were training up and like learning to be a little bit more strategic. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that it is trying to be everything at once, and here's the thing. I think this is more of an adaptation question, and I don't think it. From what I can see, I don't think it's a problem with the adaptation. I think that it's a problem. Don't freak out at me, but I think it's a problem with the writing. Not that it's bad writing, or that it's. I think problem is stating it too harshly. It's not like it's a big problem, but I think when I view the way I view fights is like, if it's just animation and it's just like characters flying around and moving and explosions and buildings being destroyed and everything, that to me, like on its own, isn't much. And I feel like, okay, by problem I mean, I don't mean that there's anything wrong with it, but I think that it lacks the structure of the fight that I crave when I am getting into a battle shonen, the strategy, the tactics of it all. And in this, it seemed like it was just Denji chainsaws out and people fly around. The best fights to me were the Aki-centered fights, when Aki would pop off and use like the sword, or choosing when to use cone or whatever. Like, he had a lot of tools in his toolbox, and each thing that he did was like a choice, and it was like he had to use what he had to the fullest. that's when I find fights really cool. But a lot of the fights that like were the hype moments and shit, speaking back to like the whole trying to be everything at once, it wanted to be this really hype thing, but the fights didn't grab me because a lot of times because it's just kind of Denji flying around fighting the Bat Devil or the Leech Devil or whatever it is, and that's not really cool to me to just have a guy flying around Doom guy style. With what? What are you laughing at?
Just when you say flying around, I'm just like
he's like flapping his chainsaws like wings.
Yeah,
that's not interesting to me. That hasn't been interesting to me since I watched Dragon Ball Z when I was a kid, and that's where I think it's like trying to be everything because it's trying to have like the sort of vapid. Again, I'm using harsh terms to say something that's not even that big of a deal to me, but to just have like the bombastic explosive animation, and the animation and the direction is good. And that's why I'm saying it's not a problem with the adaptation being like, oh, they didn't sell this fight enough or they didn't do this enough. It's that right now, and it's right now in the story as well. Or maybe at some point Denji gets a transformation or he gets something like at the end of the episode
when he has the leg,
yeah,
and he does that like trick. He like lures him in and then pulls out something different that they're not expecting.
Right.
That's kind of cool. And yeah, as the series goes on and he becomes more in tune with his abilities and like does more fights and just has more experience, that could get more interesting, as well as you get more attached to the characters the longer that you've been with them. And also I think for me, part of it could be that Denji and Power cannot really be hurt. Like they can get hurt, but they're like semi-immortal at the same time. I don't know.
I don't think that's anything because that's every shonen character.
I guess
every character flies like through skyscrapers and shit and concrete walls. That's pretty normal. I feel like that's kind of an unfair thing. I don't know what exactly it is, but I do know the hype, the fights that I felt most hype about. And this whole question has kind of been off the rails, but one last thing on the fights. Yeah, the fights that I was most hype about were the ones where there were either things at stake emotionally or there were some sort of tactic or when Aki or other people like that had to like make choices to fight. Like when they were training, when what was his name? Do we even hear his name? Kishibe. They were saying Kishibe in the comments and everything. I don't recall them saying his name. I'm so bad with
names that I
don't think they ever said his name. But everyone, that's his name. But yeah, their trainer guy. When he was like opening the door and everything and they had planned everything out, that's like just that little bit of planning, that bit of anticipation set up by the traps that they used of like the 2 liters full of blood, the preparation, the comedy factor of them wearing the glasses and think they're so badass for doing one trap. Like, that's building that anticipation is important, and that comes from an established power system, which currently there isn't aside from the pacts with devils and like the way that fiends and hybrids work. It's like there isn't a cohesive, and this is part of its strength as well because it's not tied down to like a linear path of progression with their battle prowess. Everybody isn't on the same track, and people are just better than others. That's the sign of a good shonen. And it's not a mark against it. So that's what I mean when I say problem, but I'm not really saying it's a problem. But I guess I appreciate that a little bit more. There needs to be something more to a fight than just Denji flying around with chainsaws. So if you look back at our reactions, that's why we weren't too into that. But yeah, other than the fights, I think it did a great job at everything else. Honestly,
I think the combination of like seriousness and comedy was really well handled. I feel like the personalities of the character, like I feel like Denji and Power are such a good like combo. They're such a good duo for comedy and also just for like being assholes and shitheads.
Yeah.
Like
they're funny.
They can just kind of do whatever they want, and then you have like Aki and Himeno as sort of like people that are really like fucked up and have seen a lot of shit, and then you have Makima as like someone who's very mysterious and you can't quite pin down what she wants. So I feel like the cast is like pretty solid, and they can do the comedy and the like sad or like weird and like off-putting moments. I feel like everything was really good, and I agree that the only thing kind of not as good was
lacking
the
is
fights.
which is like if it's a shonen battle series and the biggest problem that I have with them are the fights, that's like that can be a pretty bad thing. But I like the other stuff enough, and we'll get into more of the characters, I guess, with the next questions. But I think that it's a small thing, and it's not even that they're bad. It's just that it's not my style, I guess.
Yeah. Who Dat Boy says, I don't really like asking these type of questions, but for this case, it would be pretty interesting to ask. What do you think about Denji as a person, and also comparatively to other shonen characters, even ones from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, so on? I feel like there's something actually very exceptional and genuinely unique on how Denji's portrayal of the show / manga is.
What do you think about all that?
I think I like Denji. I feel like the first episode, and I think that this is definitely an adaptation win, is because when I was in the store one day,
adaptation W.
I picked up more like uncommon, because I feel like adaptations are always like, oh, they left out this scene and it ruined everything, or like, oh, they elongated this but it didn't make any sense.
Rare anime W.
But I'm not a person who likes manga, so I haven't read any of it, and I'm not going to read ahead or anything like that. But I did pick up the first one because I wanted to see little Pochta and see how cute he was. And it was like just a couple of pages.
Yeah, that's what everyone said.
And I was like, what? Like, I know people had said that, but then actually just looking at it, I'm like, damn, this really was just a couple of pages. And I think giving Denji that attachment to Pochta in the first episode and really like showing how shitty his life was and how detached from being a normal human being he was, really helps his character as we go on, and helps you feel kind of more understanding of him and the way that he is and how he interacts with other people and his surroundings and everything. So I think that first episode really drawing you in emotionally really, really helps with Denji, because at first he can come across as like, oh, he just wants to grab some boobs or whatever, and it's like, I mean, I guess that's fine, but seeing how he like has like different and like often like incorrect ideas about the transactional nature of these relationships that he's in, and how he thinks that he wants something, and then when it happens he's not really satisfied by it because it's not filling what he actually is craving on like a deeper level. He just doesn't know enough about other people and about himself to be able to properly identify what it is that he is kind of desiring and feels like he's missing.
Yeah, the thing about, and it's hard, I can't speak on this at all. This is just some thoughts going through my head. And a lot of people, when we were really discussing, like we were talking about transactional sexual relationships and not feeling loved and stuff like that, and not understanding what it means to be loved versus just physical attraction, all that stuff, all that immature stuff relating to the relationships that we were talking about in those discussions. Everyone was like, no, you're 100% on point. This is a big deal. And I don't know how to talk about this stuff without sounding like a know-it-all or a jackass or whatever. And because this is just me thinking about this. I don't know how much, and I won't know. So this isn't a criticism or anything, because I don't know. But I don't know how much of this is intentional, because a lot of people, and there were other comments in the post that talked about this, how the style of the manga is like totally different. How for the anime they really made an effort to go more normie style looking, like with the colors, the color palette of the episodes, and with the direction of the anime, they went a lot more muted than what the bombastic nature of the series actually is. Like the series in tone is supposed to feel a lot more like ending 3, whereas what we got was like an ending 1 feeling. And I don't know how deep it actually goes, all these things. If it's just being hammed up for the anime and it's a directional thing to put more emphasis on these darker, more personal, more introspective things, or if Fujimoto actually is thinking about all of, like the transactional, the more deep, like sexual conflict of all this, if that's a part of it, or because also what I've heard about the author is that he's just a madman and he is a psychotic individual where he just that's just his style where he is off the wall. So I don't know how much of this self-aware construction of these themes is taking place, or if it's just something that we can read through the story and pull out because like we're analyzing it, or because, you know, because we're not him, we can see all of these like connecting threads between how Himeno acts and how Makima acts towards Denji and all these things. Is this actually something that the author is trying to explore, or is this a window into the author's worldview in regards to sexual relationships? Is he sort of projecting his past or his experiences personally on, and how he views relationships onto these characters sort of subconsciously, just because that's what feels natural to him, in which case it's still good. Neither of these are bad. It's just a different way of constructing your story. And then the other way is he doing a long con where he is planning things out for there to be a big reveal with maybe what we figure out about Makima, or what we figure out about the Gun Devil and shit like that. When we get to the end of all this, like, is this actually a big part of the story? Because although, like, okay, and here's, like, if I can go off on a little bit more of a tangent. Another thing, I've been watching reactions to other people's reactions, and yeah, we were like maybe the only people who didn't feel super, like, who were not as attached to Himeno when she died. Like, we weren't really attached to her. It was a crazy moment, and it was sad for Aki because they had a really good relationship. But we just saw her, drunk or not, sexually damn near is it assault or harassment? I'd say very, very close, if not sexual assault. It's definitely a pushing of that of a normal person's boundary. If I was Denji in that situation, and I try to put myself in the shoes of these people. I viewed that scene as like, I don't think I could be friends with this person if they did this to me. If I had these experiences that night and then was like completely destroyed, drunk, and this person was like trying to have sex with me, I wouldn't be able to. And maybe this is again a thing I do where I take things too literally, but I'm the way that the anime portray this is a long point. It all kind of comes together, so bear with me. The way the anime portrays it, it's clearly a messed up thing. It's clearly like weird. Like, people hang on their words. There's slurring. There's Denji like, oh my God, what's going on? I don't know where I am. Like, it's super creepy, but it seems like we're the only people who had reservations about Himeno afterwards, at least to the point where, like, I didn't hate her. I knew that it wasn't necessarily a good thing, but like, when they were like, oh, we're going to be a team from now on in the breakfast or anything, and we're just kind of like, I guess I just kind of carried that. So it's all of this going back to my main point where it's like, it seemed like the story and the way everyone else reacted, this is what I said. I was watching reactions. In other people's reactions, they seemed to really be attached to Himeno still after that. And they were sad when she died, but I didn't get that because I was still kind of sour on her for nearly sexually assaulting Denji and really being intrusive to his personal space, I guess. So in the way everyone reacted, it was just such a dissonance when I went and watched those reactions, because everyone else is like either not picking up on it or just forgiving her.
I think there's a few different things in there, because I think some people are like not paying attention to any of the darker themes and are just like, yeah, way to go, Denji.
But that's the thing is, I don't know. It's one more thing. Sorry, just to add to cap it off.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a theme or if it's a projection of to marry those things that I was saying. Okay. So yeah, I don't know if it's a theme. Is it a theme, or is it just like, was it an intentional thing in the manga, or was it just, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, sorry, go on.
Well, I was saying, I was trying to look for this question, but I couldn't find it. But I know I saw it earlier. Someone asked, do you hate Himeno or do you forgive her, or something like that? And then there was someone else that asked, like, do you think Himeno is overhyped or underhyped, or overrated or underrated?
To me, she's just confusing. What do you think?
To me, I feel like with Himeno specifically, I feel like she's a really interesting character to throw into the mix, and then also interesting to kill her off because of all the reasons that you've been talking about, because it's so conflicting because it doesn't see, she's not an evil person.
Exactly, right.
And that's the difference between someone like Makima, who is purposefully taking advantage of Denji and completely in her right mind, in a huge position of power over him, and basically saying, oh yeah, we can do whatever you want if you work for me and are my dog and my slave.
Yeah.
And that is significantly more sinister than what Himeno's doing. Not that what she's doing is not that what she did was okay, but Himeno is much more of a broken and destroyed person, and it was clearly like dealing with some of her own issues, but sort of taking that out on Denji because he was just there.
Yeah.
And like, it's bad, but I feel like I feel like that's what makes it interesting, is like there's all these like contrasting things, but they did do their best, I think, to make her like a person still, not just narrowed down to that one thing and then you hate her forever. So I think that that's the thing, is you kind of are supposed to feel conflicted about her dying because like you didn't like super love her or like think that she was the best person ever, but you do know that her relationship with Aki was really important, and like what does that mean for him now in the future. Denji, even because he didn't really hold it against her the next day, and he was kind of thinking that he had a bit of a friend there, or like an ally and someone to talk to about whatever, like they had kind of teamed up a little bit there. So it's I think with Himeno as well, it's like she was introduced so early on in this story. Like this season was short compared to like the rest of what's coming after, I'm sure. So it's like she was kind of like brought in and had so much potential to like do so many things, or like make up for her past mistakes, or whatever, but then it's all get cut short because she died, and it doesn't matter, and you'll never know what could have happened or whatever, know.
Yeah, and that's exactly it is conflicting. But I don't know, as far as the whole, because a lot of this talk is, and a lot of the questions that I saw were about like this, the adaptation versus like I just it's hard because I haven't read the author's other works. I haven't read into the manga past this. I don't know where the story goes, or what is the odd imperative, or what we're supposed to take away from the story. I don't know if these things keep happening, and I don't know. And based on the fact that we seem to be one of the few channels who's really talking about it like this. I know apparently Symbols of Sanity talked about these types of things, and maybe some others. It just seems like I don't want to assume that like we've unlocked some deeper secret thing about this series that other people just aren't talking about, and we're the smart ones and everyone else is dumb. That seems unlikely. So like, I just don't know. I don't know how much. I just don't want to read too much into it. If it's not this super serious, like commentary on like modern relationships and everything like that, then I just don't want to read too much into it, I guess. I just don't want to, if it's not supposed to be that, I don't want to make it about that. I think it is too. Like I'm seeing these things, but it's just that like, yeah, I just don't want to assume too much, because we've run into a lot of things where like we assume, oh, this is, but it seems I would like it to be this way.
It seems like every time that we've seen any comments, they've been like, oh yeah, you guys are really on the right track.
Yeah, but it might just be like, even if it is like something that recurs and it is something to pull out of the series, I don't know if that's actually going to be, and again, this goes into predictions because we don't know what's going to happen. I'd be interested to see this be an actual thing that the series focuses on, and not just, an incidental sort of recurring kind of idea. To me, I feel like it's been so consistent in every aspect of every relationship. It feels that way to us, but again, we're in the minority is all I'm saying. Like, yeah, I see it too, but I don't know. I'm just hopeful that it is explored. Yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just trying to say like.
Yeah, I think personally, if we somehow are not on the right track, and like none of this type of thing is touched on in future seasons, I don't know how much I'll enjoy the show. Like if
I could enjoy it just fine. We enjoy plenty of things that aren't super deep commentaries.
No, I know, but I'm saying like I feel like it's something super interesting about the show, and like different from other shows that we've seen, So I like it, and I hope that it continues because it gives you something more to think about, but also has some flashy fights and whatever if you just want to watch it and not think about it at the same time.
Yeah.
And this kind of goes with it. Rin19 says, question, Denji has been through tons of shit because of men like his father who just left him with nothing but debt, and the Yakuza who's also just a bunch of shitty old men. But the women in his life like Makima, Himeno, and Power also have bad moments with him. So will Denji just end up with a devil or be single forever, or will he actually be in a romantic...
End up with a devil?
Yeah. Or actually...
Not as a devil?
With a devil, or will he actually be in a romantic relationship with someone that loves him genuinely?
Go ahead. What do you think?
I feel like that like really depends on like this whole conversation we've been having and how much that carries on forward, because if Denji's character, if it is going to like keep delving into his relationships and him potentially over time realizing the difference between just like transactional relationships and like genuine feelings, and just versus him like, oh, literally the first girl that he sees that like comes in and saves him, he decides that he's in love with her. That's not like, he doesn't even know her. Mm-hmm. She's horrible and has like some crazy secrets, I'm sure. And like that's not a real relationship, and that's not really caring about someone. That he's like having a manic pixie dream girl moment where he's
exactly.
like, he's putting on everything that he's ever heard about women, and he's like pinning that all on his one dream girl, and he picked the first girl that he saw. She's the dream girl. No, it can't be Himeno. We have to we can't.
I feel like that's
too far.
blaming the victim a little bit. Like that. I feel like that's blaming the victim if the reason why he's getting into all these transactional relationships is because of the expectations he's putting on.
No, but I'm saying
women?
that's like this comment said, it's because of how he was like raised. He had no interaction with anyone, and he had.
I think it's column A, column B.
He has had like a lot of time to like wish for better things, and it's like kind of putting him into some dangerous situations because he can't read other people to know that Makima is using him and doesn't actually care about him
because he's immature and being taken advantage of.
No, I'm not saying that it's his fault. I'm saying that he is easily taken advantage of.
Yeah, he's an easy target. Yeah,
and hopefully over time he can like learn to like not settle for that and not accept that treatment of himself.
I hope so. I hope that seems like it could be his arc. I think that more likely, if this is like a reflection, I don't know anything about the author, but if this the way that Denji is written feels very much like the modern dejected man. Like it takes like a lot of actually, now that you mention it, now that we're talking about it like this, it's a lot of like these sort of downtrodden, neat shonen protagonist, like when fighting's involved and it's in like I could think of, again, if I'm comparing it to Tokyo Revengers, it seems like the incel sort of like to this. I don't like using that because it's very charged, but guys who don't have a lot of luck with women, who are struggling to find their place in the world, in this like new modern world with all these new rules and shit. I feel like it speaks to a lot of people who've dealt with something like that, including myself. And like it seems like his arc exploring that sort of a lifestyle with the way things are being presented, it seems more like he'll become more and more embittered until he does become more of the devil side, that he gives into his heart of the chainsaw. He just becomes the chainsaw devil instead of just the chainsaw man, maybe. It seems like maybe, I don't know. We're operating on such little information. It's hard for me to make these like sweeping predictions about the thematic relevance of all these plot threads and all of these different elements that I'm noticing. But it seems like if that's kind of what the series is exploring, all the transactional relationships, all the things we've talked about, then it seems like and just with how dark and gritty everything is, it seems like it could be a less hopeful thing, or at least a dark period of losing hope in the idea of, love, basically, in the modern world and all these things. Yeah,
I was going to say as well, just something that you said remind me of, like, yeah, it's very popular to have that character who hasn't had any luck with women, who like desperately wants that relationship, and then usually they like don't get it, and then they find someone really nice and they are actually that dream girl, like the Amelia or like Rem or
Let's just flicker.
Yeah. Or in Tokyo Revengers, that girl, I don't remember her name, but who just like still loved him 20 years later.
Yeah, it's like, oh, there is
no reason.
There is the single
There's
perfect
that hope
girl,
out there.
you know? Yeah.
But then I feel like this is a different take where Denji is technically getting everything that he wants. He gets to grab boobs, he gets a kiss. These are the things that he says that he wants, but it's not matching up because none of these people are like good people or like because it's a transactional thing, not because and it's not like
it's not a
two
virtuous
people
relationship
who are like getting to know each other and getting to like each other or fall in love or whatever. It's nothing like that. So I feel like it is a darker spin on that kind of thing where he has been like brought he gets his dream. He gets to eat toast every day and live in a nice house and have whatever he wants.
But is that
it's not turning out the way, like, it sounds like it's really good, but it's actually not very good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually a lot darker and more sinister and, you know, than you would think. It's like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I feel like it's the same idea, but like a completely different take on it.
Yeah. Because normally it's like, oh, eventually they get the girl.
Yeah.
That's the dream. That's like the return to form, because a lot of stuff, a lot of modern stories are kind of subversive in a lot of ways. So they'll make it about, oh, you need to move past this idea of the perfect girl or whatever. But I think now there's kind of a little bit more of a resurgence of like, there is a, maybe you really can have the things you want. Like a lot of like more escapist narratives, or escapism based narratives, like that's what, like in isekai is go to another world where everything works out, you know. Mm-hmm. It seems like a lot of things are trending, like these male centric like incel baity stories are like, it's pandering in a way that is like, no, there is maybe it will work out. Here's the hope that you need to like have these things, have the girl actually pay attention to you, have the power that you really wish you did have in your real life. Mm-hmm. Then things wouldn't be so fucked up. But in this, the way that things are going, and again, I don't know enough about the author to like what he thinks about all this, but like this is kind of the similar sort of outlook, and it seems more dour. It seems more like things are going to get way worse before they get better. Mm-hmm. And they might not get better because with the viewpoint that's being presented and with the way that things are being portrayed in this world, it seems like it's coming from somebody who doesn't believe necessarily that there is that classic 1950s, whatever, that traditional relationship waiting for you of support and of, understanding. Mm-hmm. Seems like maybe with like, dating culture and shit like that today, online dating and shit, like it's just it feels like this is the reflection of someone who feels the soul has been lost from modern society, and every interaction is based on an exchange of goods and services. Mm-hmm. and that's all kind of relationships are. That's the vibe that I get from the view of the mm-hmm. world from this author. And I don't know anything about the author other than he tried to levitate in that video that one time. You haven't seen that video?
No.
I'll show it to you. He's literally actually look it up right now. This is a perfect. We'll get Lindsay's reaction to this video. Look up. I'll look it up. I'll find it. Chainsaw Man author tries to levitate.
今から浮きます。
I like how you can't see the floor.
Yeah, I know, it's just the ceiling.
That's the best part.
Yeah, so I don't know if he is if he's had the same bit of experience. For those who don't know, I've been in a situation where I feel kind of hopeless in these ways, and you could say incel or neat or whatever you want to say. So I'm not speaking of from a place of like condescension or anything. This is a viewpoint or an experience of life that I kind of have experience in. So yeah, that's kind of how I That's the world that I'm seeing in this, and how that plays out. We can only find out. Again, it is a very short season, so.
El Sara asked, "What's your favorite ending, both musical and visually?"
3. 3. Musically, I actually like ending 8 more.
Honestly, I feel like I can't really remember any of them at this point.
Not a single ending.
I liked the first one because it had a lot of Pochta in it.
Do you remember what the song was?
No, I don't remember what the song was.
Never ask Lindsay anything based on memory. She doesn't remember fucking anything.
And also,
unless it's like a perfect, like a random piece of plot information with which she can deduce the ending of any piece of fiction.
Exactly. I can't think of any.
Tune
Sorry.
in next time for Lindsay's memory part 2. Great question, by the way. I love how you chose a memory-based question. You chose the question. Wait, hang on. You chose a question you could not answer. Why did you do that?
Because I thought that I could, and then I couldn't. I remember I liked that one that had all the horses in it.
That was 5. Yeah.
I think I like that one.
That's a really good one. That's probably top 3 for me. For me, it goes 3, then 8, then 5.
From Rin19, are you guys okay with Power just being Power?
Yes.
She isn't the type to protect Denji and Aki. She only fights when she knows she'll obviously win. She's so confident when she fought the zombies, but I know she will never challenge the Katana Man.
Yeah.
I think that's what I like about her. Because she's just like pure chaos. We don't need like so many edgy characters or like so many characters that are like really emotional and stuff like that. So I feel like she's kind of a good balance to like Aki, who's very motivated and very driven from one particular goal because his tragic backstory, and then Denji also has a tragic backstory but is kind of taking that in a different spin because like now he feels like he's, you know, fighting to protect the life that he has or whatever because he gets to toast and, you know, hanging out at home. But then Power is just like, fuck this, I'll do whatever I want. And then she literally ran away, and I like that commitment that she literally ran away. And I feel like they could take it either way in the future of like, maybe one day she'll actually care about them, or she might just never care about them, you know?
Yeah. I don't know I don't know if she'll even have an arc. Like she seemed like, why would she care about anything? Like she's not human. So why would she care about people like that?
Yeah, but at the same time, Pochta cared about Denji enough to sacrifice himself for him.
That's true. And they're human-esque. Well, we don't know about Pochta. We don't know
his full backstory, but yeah. So
we don't know why he did any of that. Maybe
we don't know why he did that, but he seemed to care about Denji. I believe that even no matter what else might be going on with Pochta, because there's clearly a lot of other stuff going on, I do think that he did care about Denji and enjoyed his time with Denji. Imagining, especially if he has like beef with the Gun Devil and like all these other devils hate him and are out for him and stuff, I feel like the time with Denji might have just been like hanging out for him, you know what I mean?
I can't speak on that. I don't know. I don't think Pochta is what we think, so I don't want to assume anything about his character. Yeah. As far as Power, I think I like Power a lot. We talked during the show about how Power is awesome, about how Denji and Power together I think are not only hilarious, but going back to like how Denji, what Who Dat Boy was asking about how Denji is like not like other protagonists. That's what I like about the series. That's what I find really interesting is not just because they're characters who are like going out of their way to be like, I don't give a shit about humanity, I don't care about this, but in a more realistic sense of like, why would I care? What reason do I have to give a shit? Like, just because I'm supposed to as a shonen protagonist, or just because I'm supposed to as like cute anime girl? You know, I like that that they're more realistic, because like I said, it makes me as an audience member watching a bunch of drawings on a screen die and be mutilated. Like I'm supposed to give a shit about all these random characterless facades. Like, I don't give a shit if these random NPCs die in this show. It's a TV show. It's a cartoon. And, unless they have something about their character that endears me to them or makes me think they're interesting, when a bunch of people are just getting mowed down by a bunch of devils, why would I care about them? So when we see a character who is, and again, it's not like we want all these NPCs, all these random characters to die, not characters, but like red shirt, civilians to die in these conflicts. It's not that we want them to, and Denji doesn't want them to either, but he doesn't care if they do, really, because why would he? So it makes me relate to him and Power a lot more, because the lack of morality, because if it was a real person in real life, I would care, but I don't project like humanity onto just a couple frames of a person who is running away from an explosion or something like that. So like that makes me like Denji a lot more, because it's more realistic and it's not so
it's almost like the Hunter x Hunter experience of like
exactly.
You're more on the same page as the character, because as a character in the world, you would expect them to have more empathy if someone died like 2 feet in front of him than you would have watching it happen.
Yeah, and I think I did use that example in a Hunter x Hunter discussion, but I feel the same way here. So that's why, again, I didn't really answer Huda Boy's question in full before, so I guess it answers both. Yeah.
Vextifer says, the series seems to kill characters rather simply. Which characters are you hoping to see more of? I saw a couple other ones as well, asking like, who's your most anticipated of like all the people that were introduced at the very end?
Angel Devil seems cool. They all just seem like, look at this shark person.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think that's the thing as well. With all those characters, we'll have to see more of them to see if we want to see more of them.
Right.
Because I'm not I'm like, cool, they're there, but I want to actually see what's going on with them.
That was my problem with Demon Slayer and the expectations put upon us as a viewer. Yes.
At the end.
When whenever at the end, it's the end of the season, we need to like hype people up. Let's just show a bunch of visual like character designs doing either talking or just showing off like one of their powers. Let's just show that you don't know anything about them. Get hyped up about these things. I don't it's not anything wrong with the characters or anything, or not that I expect bad things going forward, but it's a pet peeve of mine when like that's how things are left off of like, look at all these characters you get to love in the future. And how clean, like it's not even a pet peeve with this. It's just something that I personally, when I'm watching, I'm just like, okay, they're showing me this because they want me to like, oh, look at all these cool characters we're going to meet, and we're not going to for 2 years. So get over it, I guess. So get hyped, but also wait. Like, I'm just sitting here like, okay, you either want me to read the manga or get hyped for these characters I won't see for the next 2 years. So cool. Moving on. That's it. I don't have anything to say about them. It's just one of them's an angel. One of them is a shark. One of them is a spider. They seem all right, but in the same way where all we know about them is one singular thing that they showed us in like the 5 seconds we saw them. So I can't really speak on how hyped I am to see them.
Cello asks, what would you rate the series so far? And what do you think of the sudden pacing speed up halfway through? I feel like I didn't really notice that much of a change in
everyone.
pacing.
This is it's a meme from what I can see. The Chainsaw Man pacing. Now the prologue is over. Everything else before this didn't even exist compared to what's coming now. It's again that it's the hype culture bleeding in from people who genuinely enjoy it. And it's something I don't like. I would rate it an 8 so far, maybe 8.5. I would maybe even give it a 9. It's a really, really good show so far. It's really good, and I'm genuinely excited to see where it goes. But as far as like, it really sped up around here, it was just a big epic moment. It was just a climactic battle and a really fast-paced, really well-directed and well-choreographed fight. And it really sped things up and introduced a villain. But it wasn't acting like, the pacing change. I just feel like it was just a story being told.
We just got into a different part of the plot.
Yeah. Well, and actually, speaking of, maybe there is something to it, actually, now that I'm examining it. Because it was episode 8. No, it was episode 7, the end of episode 7 right? When this happened.
I think.
When the big explosion
Yeah.
happened. Because episode 8 was when Himeno died.
Yeah. I think it's 7.
Yeah, so it's kind of right on track with where you would expect that plot point to happen. This like surprising,
it could just
climactic,
be the thing that
everything's
happens
fucked.
in every show, but because it's Chainsaw Man, everyone take notice. It really heats up.
Yeah,
or
it's
something.
not and it's not downplaying that it wasn't
Yeah.
awesome. It was my favorite part of the series, and it was fucking crazy and really dope. But it's not like, you know, having a climactic moment 7 episodes into your 12 episode show is like a big deal. That's standard story structure and plot structure. That's where you would usually have that moment. Having it any earlier is too fast. Usually it would be episode 6 or 7 is when like the big climactic moment happens, and then the rest of the season is like lightning speed battle. You could look at My Hero Academia season 1 as well. There's a similar kind of thing that happens. Everything's kind of cool, and then it's like boom, and now it's like we need to figure this out for the next 3 to 5 episodes, whatever it is. It's just that's just kind of how it is. So I don't like the I know people are just excited about the things that they love, so I can empathize with that. But I genuinely don't like the whole overhyping of everything. It was really good. Don't detract at all from how good it was and how surprising and shocking that whole situation was. But acting like it being shocking is only something that Chainsaw Man does is kind of not right.
Yeah. There was a second part of this
Still
question.
sick.
And it says, do you think the show objectifies women? Which is a criticism of the series that I've heard. And or do you think that the characters are shallow? I think that's kind of interesting because I feel like we were talking a lot earlier about like the transactional relationships and Denji's relationships with women. And I think it's interesting to hear that people think that the show is objectifying women when I feel like other shows do that so much more. This show has like an evil woman of Makima. She seems.
We
pretty
don't know if she's evil.
We don't know if she's evil. I personally think that she's evil.
We don't know if she's evil.
But I feel like
She could be an anti-hero.
I feel like I feel like this show is not really overly sexualizing women. And maybe if it is, it's doing it in a more interesting way than in other shows where it's just like some girl runs around in a maid outfit and like trips over something and her boobs fly out or whatever.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't see why this show would be getting that criticism, and I honestly haven't seen that, at least in our comments. But it's a biased source, so I can't really say. I would say yes, it's objectifying women, but we're viewing it through the eyes of a 16-year-old sex crazed teenager boy. Mm-hmm. So, and his entire his entire goal in life is the goal of many 16-year-old boys of wanting to grab some tits and fuck some bitches. So it's not objectifying it just for no reason. It's not objectifying it for sexual
the sake
value.
Of the viewer, and I think that's the
it's
other
doing
thing.
it in pursuit of, again, maybe in pursuit of a theme, but in the pursuit of exploring that obsession. I think that it is kind of on purpose. It's not just to be sexual.
And I do
check
think
recordings once.
that oh sure.
You can keep talking.
I was just gonna say I do think as well that it is less so in other shows when if you say that the show is objectifying women, it's often doesn't make any sense with the plot. It's kind of forced in. And it's clearly for the sake of the viewer and really the viewer alone, or for the sake of like the protagonist who is just a self-insert for anyone watching. Whereas I feel like with this, it's kind of different because at least for us and obviously some other people that we've heard from, like a lot of these scenes, the sexual scenes are extremely uncomfortable to watch. Like it's like disturbing and gives you a bad feeling. You're not like, ooh, Power's got her boobs out. Awesome. That's so, I mean, some people are having that type of reaction, but I feel like for us and definitely for other people that we've heard from, like it's a disturbing moment and it's like you're uncomfortable. Yeah. So it's not really for the viewing pleasure of the audience in the same way that it would be in a different show.
Again, this is when I feel like I'm going insane because this stuff this stuff feels so obvious to me. It's just that's the show that I'm watching, is the show where sex is uncomfortable, where it's not what you want, what you thought you wanted. It's like weird. You get a weird feeling. Why does this feel so one-sided? Why am I drugged right now in a random woman's apartment that I met like yesterday or today? Like, or I guess a week ago at that point. Like, this is weird. This is bad. Why? Like, it doesn't feel right. It feels wrong. To me, these things are so obvious, and when I'm watching, I'm immediately put on edge. But again, this is where I felt like I was going crazy watching other people's reactions, where they were like, "Yeah, go in for it, man. Kiss Makima, do it. Oh, just go in for it." And I'm just like, "Wait, what the fuck are we? Are we watching the same series?" And again, it's not even like I'm saying like, are you dumb for thinking of it like that? Because I put it back on myself. I don't put it on the people I'm watching. If I'm the only person I can see out of 20 reactors that I watched, we're the only people who saw it that way. Is the problem with them, with all of them, and all of them are viewing the series wrong, or are we viewing it wrong? It seems more likely that we would. So this is where I feel like I'm going insane, because it is so obvious to me that all this shit is happening. But that makes me, and that's where the doubt comes in. That's where I'm like, is this not as deep as I'm thinking it is, and it's actually just way more two-dimensional? And is it more of just a hype fest where people are grabbing like, is that it? If I'm the only one seeming to get this, and again, it's not because I want to be special that I'm thinking about this. I watched a bunch of reactors. Nobody else is getting this. So this I feel like I'm going insane. And this is where the doubt comes in, where all this circular, like me talking in circles about all this shit, because I don't want to assume too much. I want to watch a good show, but I don't want to like think this is something that it isn't and then be let down in the end because I thought that it was way more deep than it actually is. I don't know. It seems all this stuff seems so obvious to me. It seems like that's what the story is about, but that doesn't seem reflected in everyone else that I've seen consume it, other than the comments, which again are like a biased source. Everybody who's watching who watches reactions obviously loves Chainsaw Man and thinks that it's the dopest shit ever, thinks that it's super deep and like says a lot and really speaks to them on a personal level. So it's a biased source, and I hazard to take that as like the actual fact of the whole series. So I don't know. What was the question?
It was, do you think the series objectifies women? And then we kind of went off and on from there.
Yes. But not in the same way that like High School DxD like another, again, like I said, another show about a boy who wants to grab some tits and a bunch of devils.
Well, and then I think it's also like in a different thing, because like women are like allowed to be sexual creatures like in media without it just being like, oh, she's super over sexualized for this, you know what I mean?
But what about are the males other than Denji sexual creatures ever in the same way? They don't display their sexuality at all.
Yeah, that's true.
So like Aki is sexy, but that's just
though at the same time we are
trap.
like it went back to what you were saying. We're viewing it through Denji's perspective,
exactly, which is
so,
important.
Yeah,
it's not a small like, oh, it'll just be. Of course, it would be sexualized. That's why we're seeing all these big bouncing balloon anime titties all over the place. It's because the main character is viewing the world through that lens. So it's okay to have just fan service all the time. It's like, I guess, but that it's because and that's where again these are the reasons why I really like the show. This is what I have latched onto, is this dynamic, and the fact that we seem to be in the minority of people who've latched onto it for that dynamic, at least at this point in season 1. That's what makes me worry for the future of the show. Not because I find anything wrong with it, but because I seem to be seeing something that most people don't, and it makes me believe that it's not actually there.
I guess, but then it also could be the type of content you're viewing. Like if you're watching a reaction and maybe some people are just like going along with what the show is telling them. Denji really wants this, so they're cheering for the boy Denji.
Yeah.
But maybe if you watch like a deep dive discussion video, then you would be finding someone who is, delving into it a little bit more. And not to say that that we're like such superior reactors and we like notice things and are so awesome. Just that like I imagine some people are just watching the show to watch the show and having a good time watching the show. And even if they might get a little bit uncomfortable about something, they're taking their cues from the main character rather than like perhaps the vibe.
But that's where
or,
it's
like,
weird, is because the main character in those moments is uncomfortable.
That's true.
So like, again, I at least as far as my perspective, yeah, it's a difficult thing being a reactor sometimes, because I don't know whether I'm overreacting and going insane or whether I actually am noticing other things because I'm doing a deeper reading of things than other people. And I don't like to assume that I'm smarter than people, so I try to put myself as the average. I try to think when I go into shit that I am the average person, not that I try to remove any kind of ego from what I'm doing to try and be like, I'm not smarter than anyone, because I don't think I'm smarter than anyone. I think I'm an average guy. I don't think I'm dumber than anyone either. I think if I come up with something, I'm not like, oh my God, I'm such a fucking genius for thinking of this. I think, okay, this is the norm. This is everyone is noticing this. Everybody's understanding this. And then I look around and everyone isn't noticing it. Does that mean that it could go either way? Because I don't want to assume that I'm like picking up on some deep, freaking. But
then at the same time, with this specific
eldritch
series,
knowledge that nobody understands.
I feel like then with this particular one, I feel like it's not like I don't feel like I'm picking up on anything more, because I feel like it's like punching me in the face every episode.
Yeah,
with how
I
obvious
agree.
it
Anyway,
is.
Is there another question?
I think that can be pretty much ended
Really?
off on.
Is there anything else we missed?
Let me
I feel like
take
there's a lot more. We kind of just talked about one
moment.
thing for the last hour.
Soul said, now that the Gun Devil can be tracked down, any guesses on how they'll fight it, considering the power it displayed during the flashback?
Right. This is a question that I saw and I've been thinking about a lot. Is there anything you want to say before I go into a rant? What do you think?
Honestly, I really have no idea, and I am interested at more so at the Gun Devil's motives and why it is so eager to get Pochta. Rather, like,
we don't know that. We don't know that. We don't know.
We do know.
No. Yeah.
We literally know that the Gun Devil is after Pochta.
Yeah, it has a bounty on its heart. Yeah, no, I was thinking about our theories about. Never mind. No. Sorry, I forgot about that.
I want to know that because I'm interested in why the Gun Devil is clearly the most powerful thing we have seen thus far in the series, capable of killing millions of people and just leveling everything flat. So why has it been in hiding all of this time, and why, if it wants Pochta, doesn't it go after him? Considering that Denji is just a guy with some chainsaws and can kill millions of people in like 5 seconds, So I feel like something with that history there, perhaps what's behind the door in Denji's mind that like reveals more of Pochta's past. I feel like there's something more to the Gun Devil than just, I'm a big bad
how will
devil.
They fight him?
I don't know how they'll fight him though. That's the other thing is, why does a devil so powerful need to like hire people and give them guns to like go do its dirty work for them when it is so powerful? So that's what I'm wondering. Is something wrong with it, or is it lazy, or is it just very planning and likes to like work from the shadows rather than just did it commit that act of destruction to just gain a huge power up, and now it's just biding its time because the fear is actually growing when it hasn't done anything, so people are just living in fear. At any moment the Gun Devil could just strike them down again.
I don't know.
I'm not sure what benefit is to the Gun Devil of staying away, especially since we know that devils tend to like to destroy things and hurt people.
I don't know. I think I don't know what they're gonna do. I think that what they're going to do is hard to predict. Like if they ever come in contact. Yeah,
because they might not.
Because we also don't know we don't know what everybody wants with it. We know Aki wants to kill it, but we don't know what Makima wants. We don't know. Like Denji is the only reason why he has any beef with the Gun Devil is because Makima said that they would have sex if he killed it, but that doesn't mean he can.
Yeah.
So I think if I'm taking a step back, I think what's going to happen is Denji's going to get a power-up. I think that he's going to get a Super Saiyan transformation, Chainsaw Man style. Either grow more chainsaws or be able to heal
He just
significantly
becomes a ball
better.
of chainsaws.
I think he'll get like some sort of healing factor upgrade. He'll get some kind of shonen power boost in the moment, maybe through his anger of realizing everything with Makima, that he's been manipulated, that all this shit, whatever. Or maybe we don't even know if Makima wants to kill the Gun Devil. We don't know what she wants. We don't know
She
if
wants to find it.
if she wants to like merge with it or go through the same process that Denji did with the Gun Devil.
She's even human.
I think she's human. I think that's more likely than her just wanting to kill it. Why would she be like destroying half the government to like get all of it under her control and massing all this power to go and just kill something? Why? Why? She doesn't seem to be like emotionally driven like Aki. It's not like she isn't driven by revenge as far as I can see, unless she's very good at hiding it. It seems more like she has a greater desire, and that's all that makes sense to me. So how they fight the Gun Devil, I think, is a question
For a little bit later.
No, is a problematic question, because I don't know if fighting them is the goal. Like, we know that's, but it's also confusing because that's what Makima said. Did she say defeat or kill? I think she said defeat.
I'm not sure.
I can't remember.
I also think that Denji could potentially get a power-up if for some reason the fear of chainsaws got on the rise.
He has shown up on the news all over the place, but he's showing up as a heroic figure.
Yeah,
for
but
the
like
government.
I was talking about before, like, just because something is like a good thing doesn't mean that you can't also be afraid of it at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, if you're like, oh, this like giant robot has now been hired by your government and is going around and it's defeating every bad thing that comes towards you. You're like, oh, that's a good thing, but also I really hope that it doesn't turn on me, because if it turned on me, that'd be really bad, you know?
Right. I don't know.
There's kind of a similar question.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. What's the next question? Maybe that'll give me some direction.
Omar de Santiago says, hi there, glad to hear you enjoyed the show. The question: we know devils are based on things people are scared of and get stronger and scarier. The stronger the scarier... Sorry. And get stronger the scarier these things are. Do you have any guesses or hopes on what type of fears will be represented in Devils the next season?
I have... What? What are people afraid of? I don't know how to answer that question. What? We just start...
Needles.
Needles. We got knives. We got... stubbing your toe in a piece of Lego. We got
Lego devil.
Yeah, I mean, name a fear.
Yeah.
The fear of falling, the fear of planes, the fear of ladders, the fear of heights.
I'm gonna make up my own question. We haven't talked about jujutsu much in this discussion.
You're just like, okay, we got another question.
Well, I thought
anyway. I'm making up my own question.
Well, like we can go on about like what one it'd be.
Then why did you read
the fear of children? That would be funny.
That'd be a creepy devil.
The clowns, that'd be cool. I was just gonna ask you, what do you think of, like, because Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu have like a very similar devil system, what do you think has done it better so far?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think
they're the same. It's just the only difference that I can tell is there are just more of them in Chainsaw Man.
There's more of them, but I also feel like they are less like sentient a lot of the time, because I also feel like they're less disturbing. They're more like, oh, look at this thing and we can defeat it, you know?
In Jujutsu Kaisen?
No, I feel like in Jujutsu I like it more in Jujutsu. I feel like I'm more like in tune with it in Jujutsu, and I'm not really sure why that is.
I think it's just because there's fewer of them and they're more developed.
And they're more of characters.
Yeah, like
and
Hanami is just a really cool villain character with an interesting voice, an interesting aesthetic, different powers, the way the thing blooms on its shoulder.
I feel like I'm interested in the fights in Jujutsu, and not necessarily just because it's not that I like any of the main characters super better than in Chainsaw Man, but I feel like I am more intrigued by the villains.
Yeah.
Like when they're doing something, I'm like, ooh,
yeah,
they're really
I think
doing something.
I think it's just the Akatsuki effect of just having a group of people bent towards a goal that we don't really know is more compelling because it's character based rather than this mysterious, like not that mystery isn't compelling, but as far as like being more interested in the character of it all, you're obviously going to be more interested in the villains with a face that you can read and who, like Mahito, who tells lies and all this shit and who messes with Junpei and stuff. And as you know, that's obviously much more personal interaction, whereas the chainsaw or the gun devil is much more of a sort of is seeming like a very powerful force that's just kind of around and in everything, and there's pieces of it all over the place. It's kind of looming rather than, you know, a group of people who have faces and personalities that we can identify with. That's the only difference. But as far as whichever one does it better, they both have their strengths and weaknesses. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about, like, you know, okay, so here's the tomato devil. If we kill the tomato devil, then what happens? Where does all the fear of tomatoes go? Because it was going to this thing. Is it just nothing now? Why was it nothing before? Or why was it something before? You know?
Yeah.
Will it eventually reform if people are still afraid of tomatoes after the tomato devil's dead? All these questions may or may not be answered, but I don't know. That's something I thought about. It's not even something I think is wrong with it. I'm sorry if I cut you off. Were you going to say something?
No. I know that wasn't even a question someone asked. I just thought it might be kind of interesting because they're very similar.
That wasn't a question somebody asked?
No, I just made that up because
What do you think? Do you like one? You like the Jujutsu one?
Yeah,
more?
I do like the Jujutsu one more, and I think that maybe it's just because we got a little bit more time with them, so we could see them. But also, because they were more organized and they were like reoccurring, not just like the Bat Devil and the Leech Devil that are like, oh, we're big bad guys and we were working together, but then they're dead, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And even similar, and also then some of the other devils that we've seen, like the Snake Devil, have been tied to like a person who's also now dead. So it's, I feel like especially from this first season, a lot of the villains are just like gone. The one that's still around is the Gun Devil, but we don't know anything about it. So I'm interested in maybe later on we'll like see some devils that we can't defeat and maybe get away and like come back, or we see more of like the Gun Devil's plans because it's sending people after Denji, you know? Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to see what they do with that. But at the same time, I don't just want like a copy paste of every other anime that has a group of villains. So if they do something different, that's also okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There were 140 comments. So
a bunch of them are recommending other shows.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like half of them are like, you should watch this, you should watch that. Pokemetry says, what was your favorite scene? The part where Aki read the letter from Himeno to her sister was really interesting to me because at first I didn't think much of it, but after I watched it a couple more times, I think it's one of the best scenes. And then he just talks about what the thing was. What was your favorite scene?
I think the fight in the whatever that shop that they when the people first attacked. Mm-hmm. To me, that was my favorite scene. I also really liked just when Aki and Denji and Power were all hanging out in their apartment and getting settled in, and mm-hmm. Power was the shit devil. Yeah. I think just that one just stress mounting of just like, oh my god, this is fucking happening. People are dead, people are shot in the head, people are chopped into pieces, people are mm-hmm. destroyed, people are sacrificing their lives pointlessly. Like that I like that. I really enjoy that type of action. It's one of the reasons I really love Hunter x Hunter is this, no time to think. Everybody's acting on instinct, relying on their training, relying on what they think is right. And mm-hmm. their personality is like brought out of them instantly because they have no time to like consider, what will this person think of me if I leave them now? What will this person think of me if I cower and run away? Or if I should do this because it's the right thing to do. I should fight because it's the right thing to do. I should, defend this person because it's the right thing to do. They just act and it reveals things about their character and how they think. Mm-hmm. And it's just a style of combat that I think is just very, it's always well choreographed, or at least usually is, because these things have to like happen one after the other. And yeah, there's no time to think. So you really see how people are in those situations. So I really like that scene, the big fight.
I really liked the scene when Denji and Power were training and they had like their big moment where they thought that they were so smart and then it just like immediately failed. But it was good because they did better than they had previously done, but then it was still kind of funny in the end and they had all their glasses and stuff.
And the Himeno and Denji in her apartment, both versions of the scene. There was one at the end of an episode and there was one at the beginning. I think that was just a really well done scene.
It's like not an enjoyable scene, but a really good
really well done scene, yeah.
I think also I did like when Kobani went crazy with the knife in the Infinity Devils thing. You remember what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, where she was like, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
Yeah. That was really good. Yeah, there was some.
It was really good how everybody turned on her completely, and it was, to me, it was just like this is set up. They aren't just gonna do this. Like, this isn't just her character. Like, but everyone seemed to be just like, oh my god, I would kill that stupid bitch, kill her, fucking throw her in the hole. You know, like instantly everyone's like, fuck this girl. Yeah, but I'm just like, she's gonna come around, and she did, and she was badass.
We've talked about this a little bit, but Wetbread said, what do you guys think of Makima, since she herself has a lot going in terms of her character? What are your theories for her?
What are your theories for her?
I still think that she's a devil.
What, the step on me mommy devil?
Yeah. A crushing devil, or the
fear of being crushed.
Yeah. I'm not sure, but I do think that she's a devil, or if she is a human and she has a contract with the devil, it must be an exceptionally strong devil, and she has worked out a really sweet deal where she just has to sacrifice someone else and not anything to do with her.
It seems more like, here's why I think it's more of a contract and she's actually a person. Because if you think of how Aki does his thing with Cone, he makes a hand sign, and then it takes a sacrifice from him. And it could take his hair, it could take his skin, it could take whatever. With what Makima does, she gets a human sacrifice, a person, and she does a hand motion signal thing. And then that happens, and if she has the name, then that happens to whatever person she names. So it just seems more in line with that, rather than, because if she was a devil, if she was a crushing devil, she could just crush something. But the fact that she needs a sacrifice to do it, and the fact that she's doing a similar hand motion, seems like she has some sort of a pact with another devil, and that makes me think that she's just a human, because fiends cannot make pacts with devils. So, and Denji doesn't need a blood sacrifice. He gets chopped up, and turning into the thing makes him lose blood, but he doesn't need, and his blood, I guess, is like fuel, but I don't know if it's actually fuel for the chainsaw, or if that's just something we've been saying. But with Denji, like, being a hybrid devil, he doesn't require a sacrifice per se to do that. So that's the rules for a hybrid. And the rules for a fiend are they can't make pacts with devils. But fiends say Power's ability is she uses her blood as like ammunition, not as a sacrifice, but as ammunition for her thing. She's the blood devil. But she also has a distinct head, which is another thing of a fiend.
But what will you say about Makima getting shot?
That's the interesting thing. So she might be wearing a wig. I don't know, man. That's where it gets weird. So I don't know.
That's why I think
she got shot in the head. Yeah.
And to be able to recover from that, you would assumingly have to be immortal or semi-immortal, like a fiend or a person, or just a devil that looks like a human.
Right.
Because as we saw from the spider devil,
why would she need a sacrifice?
She could just want a sacrifice. The sacrifice could allow her to exact her power over a longer distance. Or she could be the devil of something that like traditionally requires a sacrifice or something like that. You know what I mean? I feel like that's part of what makes her interesting, is because she's so mysterious and any of these things kind of work. You know what I mean?
She's the fear of women. And she is the embodiment of all of these themes that we've been discussing this whole time. She is men's fear of women, of like this crushing, oppressive, judging force that is not phased by anything, that is in complete control and is mysterious and unemotive, and you don't know what's going on behind it because guys are like clueless or whatever. Like maybe she's that embodiment, and the crushing is like the weight of that pressure.
That would actually be
people
pretty
feel.
crazy.
So that would be crazy. Probably not though, but but maybe.
I don't think that she's a human. I think that she's something else.
Yeah, her getting shot, I forgot about that, if I'm being 100% honest. I forgot she got shot in the head, but I don't know what the fuck. Like, then there has to be something, but she can't be a fiend, so she just must be a hybrid, right?
That's the thing is, like, even if she is a fiend, maybe that's why she needs a sacrifice, because she has limited herself by going into a human body and now requires a sacrifice to, like, do her devil stuff.
But what could it be? Like if she is a devil or a fiend, but she doesn't have a distinct head.
But she has distinct eyes. Do they need something on top of their head, or
they need something with their head? That was the first thing when we met Power. They were like, fiends have something fucked up with their head.
Yeah, well, your eyes are part of your head. She has fucked up eyes.
If that's all it is, it feels kind of misleading. Again, we talked off screen in the car at one point about how red herrings can be kind of bullshit, where like, oh, we developed this thing, but it actually has nothing to do with this thing you thought it was. Bitch, you got screwed over. Like, you got totally hoodwinked by my expert writing ability, where I set up this one thing and it's actually something completely different. It just seems like if you're going to put in the effort to set something up, then it needs to be like that, but slightly adjacent, rather than just not that thing at all. So, like, I guess that does make sense. Her eyes are different, but like, so were the Snake Girl's shit, but she isn't anything.
But they still looked like how like everyone draws.
She had eye
but people
slits.
do that in manga all the time.
People do that with Makima's eyes too all the time.
I guess, but I guess the thing is that because you pointed out that she does have very similar eyes to the fox devil,
right?
As well, which then leads me to believe that that was on purpose, because those are like the eyes of literally the eyes of a different devil that we've seen.
But then what do we make of Aki's eye, where the future psycho devil is in his eye and it looks completely the exact same unless you're looking directly into it?
Yeah, but that's a devil just
within,
just looking out of his eye, not a literal devil that looks like a person that has devil eyes. Because it's just
there's no consistency with it, because like, what other examples can we weigh it against? You're big brain Lindsay, so you're probably just 100% right, and there's no point discussing it further. But as far as logic goes, there's no evidence that we can use to infer that, because the only other person with there's two other characters with messed up eyes like that: Power, and then whatever the Snake Girl's name was. Snake Girl's name was just a person. It wasn't set up. It wasn't anything. She just had snake eyes. Big whoop. And it was nothing at all. And then there's the sharpened teeth and eyes with Power, because Denji and Power have the same sharpened teeth, even though one's a fiend and one is not. But Denji already had
that previously.
That's true. So yeah, that's again part of my argument, where it doesn't mean anything. These features don't mean anything unless the story just says they mean something, which you could say is a criticism of these things, where you cannot use the visual design of people to, as evidence towards one thing or another. It's just kind of the fact that it's used kind of willy-nilly. If you just want one character to look cool, you give them snake eyes, and then the sharpened teeth aren't a factor of devilness, because Denji has sharpened teeth. He had it before he was a devil man, and then there's the samurai sword dude who did not have sharpened teeth even after he was a devil man. Yeah. So these things are not anything as far so all of this evidence together, the fact that Makima has weird eyes doesn't mean anything, because nobody's weird features mean anything unless they're a fiend who have horns or some kind of weird shit coming out of their head. Mm-hmm. That's my point. So like, it's not evidence one way or the other for anything.
Yeah, I
Judge
guess.
With any other character, but you're probably just right, and there's no point in arguing.
The only reason that I say it is just because she got shot in the head, so I immediately assume she can't be human. And
I think you're right, but yeah. I don't know what. But then I have to ask myself we have to ask ourselves, like, what of what? Of what? Like a devil of what? And why the sacrifice? And
Well,
yeah,
I think that's
maybe...
what makes it hard as well, is because some of these devils.
And then what does she want as well? If she's a devil, then what does she want with the gun devil?
Maybe, I mean, the gun devil has something to do with Pochta. Maybe she has something to do with the gun devil, in like a similar manner, or maybe she is like the devil of crushing your enemies and rising through the ranks or something like I don't know, maybe she like
maybe
wants, she wants to, and maybe
she's the bureaucracy devil.
Yeah, maybe she even wants like more power in that way, and she is literally gathering, she specifically engineered herself to now be the leader of like this army of fiends and hybrids, because that's what happened after all those people got taken out, and she knew that they were all going to get taken out. And
what if she just is the gun devil? And people
that would be crazy, but at the same time, she can't be, because we've seen her holding like the box of the gun devil bits,
and it didn't
go towards her.
But what if that's fake and she just controls
just, like,
those
made
bits?
Up like random stuff.
She's just like, yeah, they're actually drawn towards, and then she's just like behind her back, crossing her fingers, and then all drawing them towards like the North Pole. Like they're actually just drawn towards the North Pole, and we have no idea.
That would be interesting, but at the same, like, yeah. Then
I don't think it's likely. I'm just coming with crackpot random shit at this point. I don't know. I don't know anything about Makima. When they were in the Infinity Devil thing, when did they say something about, at any point actually, about eating a devil eating a devil and becoming more powerful? Did they say anything about that, or am I imagining that? Do you remember anything about that?
It kind of sounds familiar, but at the same time, I'm not sure.
Okay, I won't. My idea was maybe Makima, if she is a devil,
she's like raising all.
She wants to eat the most powerful devil. So she knows the gun devil is like untouchable. Yeah. So she's getting all of her power outside of being a devil to eventually get to the devil, eat it, and then become the most powerful thing on the planet. Maybe.
Yeah.
But why? That's always the question with villains. But why?
Yeah. Maybe that's a thing. I'm not sure. Maybe because like some of the things had pieces of the gun devil. I'm not sure if they just had them or if they ate them. It's similar to like in Jujutsu with the fingers, how they could eat them and be.
That's what
powerful.
It seems like it is. Well, that's what I don't know why because everything seems kind of touched by the gun devil, and they just have these chunks in them. But like, is it explained that they become more powerful with that?
Or yeah, does it become more powerful, or is it...
I forget if I think they did say something about that.
I think they did.
I think they did.
I think it sounds about right. So yeah, potentially something similar to that. Makima also, yeah, she does seem to just want to rise through the ranks and get as much power as possible. She didn't personally do it, but she let a bunch of people get killed so that she can have more power and be completely in control of all these non-human hybrid devil arsenal, you know?
Yeah.
That she's in control of. And, yeah. I don't know. And I feel like there's a lot to think about with her, and it's really impossible to nail down any one.
We just have no information about anything.
Yeah. Like, and that's the thing with the gun devil, with Makima, with everything. With Pochta, we don't know.
Yeah.
And there's not even enough to, like, there's enough to speculate in general directions, but there's not anything to be like, oh, I really believe this, because you can't, you know. But anyway, I think that's pretty much it. I think we got another hour left to discuss. No.
Okay, fine.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Hope that you enjoyed. I think this was quite a long one at this point.
Have we been talking for like 2 hours at this point or something?
Yeah, it's after 11.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Please leave a like if you like this, and subscribe if you like this as well. Bye-bye.
See you guys in 2 years.